So welcome to SilverNutsGarage. If you've already subscribed, thank you. If you haven't, please do. And push that little bell, notification bell, I think it is, so you'll know the next time I'm making fun of my fat bastard buddy Jones. So, last video on this, you saw me take apart the clutch hub. So I thought I'd go through before we put it all back together and show you a couple things that has been helpful for me. Some great people to watch if you want some great video and detail. I think I mentioned them before, but one is Pacific Mike. He's a wealth of knowledge, all for free. Tatro Machine is another one that's into old bikes. So check those guys out. Subscribe to them. They're good. They're good at what they do. So I'll go through a couple of things. Here's what I'm looking for once I get this. And I don't know all the specific terms. This is a clutch basket, I call it. By the way, over here I do have a manual, so I would suggest get a manual and a parts catalog. It'll help you out. They call that the clutch shell. So anyhow, enough boring, right? Clutch shell. So here it is. Here's what I look for. These clutch plate retainers here, they are pop riveted in or actually peened in along with this sprocket. So what I look for is any looseness in here on any of these, which we do not have. Any major wear and grinding marks on the face. And also I look at the sprocket to make sure all the teeth are there and we're good, and that it's not rocking and rolling or back and forth and everything is tight. And everything is. And I'm going to assume that's close to 63 years old. I don't know. It could be off of something else, but worst case scenario, it's that old. And when you're that old, I think you're okay to have some dings and things like that. We're not going to make this perfect. So that's that. I'm happy with that. That's cleaned up. The next thing we looked at, this is the pressure plate. I showed you before. I put on some washers, tightened the nut back up to compress the springs before I took the nuts off. What that did was save me time. It retained all of these springs. I think there's 10 of them in there. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 springs. And I didn't have to fit them all back together and fight them, etc. So they're back together. So that is done, cleaned, ready to go. The clutch friction plates are here. And what I did was I cleaned them with my handy dandy sprayer with isopropylene or isopropyl rubbing alcohol. It's cheap. You can get it at the Dollar General. You don't have to pay for choke cleaner or brake cleaner, or and all those will work just fine. This is just an economical way to get grease off. The heavy stuff here, the bigger metal things, I will put them in a parts washer, but I don't put these in a part washer because they have the friction plates, and I don't know if they absorb oil or not. I think they're good for wet or dry clutches, so I don't think it makes that big of a difference, but long story short, that's what I do. So I took the friction plates, I cleaned them off, I took some sandpaper, kind of scuffed them up just a little bit, didn't get real crazy, blew them off when I was done, so I have dry, scuffed up friction plates. I did the same with these metal plates. And these metal plates, okay, when I'm looking at them, I'm looking for, again, big scars, scuffs, etc. Again, they're old. They're allowed to be a little scuffed up, but for the most part, there's nothing that sticks out. These have they're springs, and they have little balls. I don't know if you can see them. They have little balls that are spring loaded, and what that does is when they go in this piece, like that, when they start rocking back and forth, it gives them a little bit of spring and kind of quiets them up a little bit. So when I sand these down, I go ahead and make sure that all of the balls are in. There's no big bends. They're flat. They look good. And once they're all cleaned up, they're cleaned up. So that's what I do there. The clutch hub, clean all the grease off of it. This is it has 10 spindles, but this is a 3-post. They make 3s and 5s, and they may make others that I'm not familiar with. But I get it all cleaned up. I sand this part down too, clean it up with the alcohol, and we'll, you know, scuff this up a little bit. And then I'll blow it all off with compressed air. When I took it apart, this is the bearing retainer race, and here are 20 bearings. They look like I don't know, mouse turds, I guess. Pretty big mouse. But anyhow, what they do is they set in this race like that. You can see that. And what you do is you'll grease this up the inside. You don't want to use too much. You want to use enough grease that when you drop these in, it makes them stay, so that when you do this, they don't fall out. So when they don't fall out and you've got them all in there, and they will fall out, but when you have them all in there, you will turn it this way, and you will put it right down delicately without dropping them off, and drop it over your spindle. Then your 20 bearings will ride on this flat. So what you want to do is check this flat out. Make sure that it's not scored and it looks all good. You want to make sure your threads are good. You want to make sure that this fiber you're not eating into the rivet itself. So you have to have enough material where you're not eating into the rivet. So if everything's tight, you're not eating into the rivet, your spindles all look good, go with it. So I'll show you how to put it back together, but I'm going to pre-prep everything. I figured I'd show you what I was looking for. So once these bearings are greased and put back in, there is a bearing retainer that goes on, and that will drop on. And this is what keeps this from coming back out. And then they come with 3 springs. And these 3 things go right on, these 3 spring retainers go on the 3 studs with the threads. So you can see there. And you'll push those down until the top spring hits that little groove. And that's what keeps it from backing off. Now they make some other plates that I'm actually going to buy and try out that are supposed to be new and improved. I'm going to try them. I've never used them. I haven't used a lot of things because this is a new venture for me. So once that's all put back together, what I want to check is these plates, when you put them on, okay, should be, and I'll take this off just so we don't have things jiggling around. So what I'll do is I'll drop these friction discs on, okay? And they're supposed to be on and move freely so that when you engage your clutch or disengage your clutch, separate your plates, these should all move so that they don't excessively wear the plates. And you can see that's pretty tight. I mean, it's loose here to right there. And I've seen people drill holes if they're excessively tight. Before I was kind of paranoid to drill holes because the bigger you go, and I think they only go like a 1/16 of an inch bigger. But what I wanted to do before I did that is take something like this and just get the burrs off of it. You know, make sure that there's not a burr on one of these plates. So once I did that, I put it back on, and they were still tight. And I thought, well, I'm gonna drill these out. And I decided, you know what? I'm not gonna drill these out right now. I wanna try something. So here's what I did. I dropped all these plates on. Now, once we get going, you don't have to worry so much about these, because there'll be a friction plate, a steel plate, a friction plate, a steel plate, friction plate, a steel plate. So I'm not going to put the steels on now for the purpose of showing you. I put these on, and I'm glad I did before I started drilling, because all of a sudden the light bulb went off. And I'm not saying drilling's the wrong thing to do by any means. I'm sure there's a time for it. Another thing I did before I did that is I looked at all these spindles to make sure that one of them wasn't bent, that somebody in the past, you know, long time, easy to drop one of these in the garage and bend one of these. So I wanted to make sure everything was pretty straight. Everything looked pretty straight. So I went ahead and figured, okay, I'm going to drop these on. Let's see here. Okay, so that would be all of those plates. And you can see they go up a little bit, but then they start to get tight. But I thought, okay, well, this is the pressure plate. It has to go on. And if you notice, you have two studs in between these two in between these two, three studs in between these. So when you put this on, if you don't want to fight, try to figure out what's what, you can look at the dimples. Here's my 3 dimples on my pressure plate. That's going to go where the 3 studs are. So I know that it's going to go on like that. So I know that when I took it off, that it was about somewhere in here. I had enough room for a nut that was about flush, maybe a thread or so, and we'll get into how to adjust them later, but that was about the height of it. So what I did was I got it at about that height, about right there, and I brought this last plate out to match that. And I'm going to have to turn it up to get it done. About right there. Okay? And then I took this off, and I knew that this disc wasn't going to come out any farther than that. So then I started looking, and it's like, check it out, all of those plates move really freely from one side clear up. So, you know, I don't think I'm going to have an issue. So instead of me getting in and drilling them out and getting a little bit of this tick, 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 tick action, which I think would make it a little louder, I thought, wow, I don't need to do that. So I'm glad I looked at that. And so neither here nor there. Drill them if you want. I'm not going to drill these. Worst case scenario, they're going to wear a little quicker than what they should. So with that being said, I think that's about all I was going to show. We'll go ahead and start to put all this back together once I get ready. And we're ready to go, and we'll hopefully by then my buddy Jones will be here, and he can do this while I tape him, and or he can narrate or something like that. So thank you for tuning in. Have fun. Spank the shit out of that monkey. Smash that bug. So on and so forth. Have a good one.